Stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll have a roll call.
Mayor Hassler.
Here.
Alderman Smith.
Here.
Alderman Mooney.
Here.
Alderman Donovan. Alderman Jokerst.
Here.
Alderman Jones.
Here.
Alderman Stupi.
Here.
Alderman Prince.
Here.
Alderman Rozika.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Need the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Takes us down to a personal appearances. Chip, are you here? There you are. You going to address the board?
Sure.
Please come to the podium.
Well, I'm Chip Marzuko, here just to touch base with the aldermen, let you guys know kind of what we've got going on. We're going to have our second annual UTV poker run for the Spring for Down Syndrome fundraiser for our special needs. And I'm assuming it's basically been all approved, but I wanted to make sure that we brought it up to everybody and let everybody know and see how it did work out last year compared to what we're planning on for this year. Last year we actually had over 150 UTVs, over 300 people participated in it. And on your guys' end of it, have you seen any? Did you notice any problems? Was there any issues? I mean, I talked to...
I would ask the chief about that.
Yeah, I talked to the chief, talked to the county, the deputies and stuff out there. We actually did a ride of the poker run afterwards on Sunday, and we were afraid there was going to be trash and stuff, so we were going to do a ride along. We found one water bottle, and we don't even know for sure if it was ours. And and we went from St. Genevieve all the way to Bloomsdale and back, so it was about a 34-mile ride. So hopefully they didn't bother anybody from around town. This year we're expecting the same, if not a little bit more. We're going to be taking off from the KC Hall. We're still in the works of figuring out where the route is going to be for 100%, but it's going to go south towards Caskey instead of north towards Bloomsdale. And we're actually working hand in hand with French. Is it the French Heritage Days? This is June 8th, if I'm not mistaken. And we're working hand in hand that we're going to be trying to do stuff with them this year. Since we had to move ours back a week due to the Special Olympics at state level, last year we had a bunch of special needs that couldn't go to state Special Olympics because they were all involved with our event. So this year we moved it back so they can participate.
If they aren't asking for a road closure or police escort or any resources from the city, there really wasn't any action for you to take. However, you should know that since it's an organized event, we aren't going to require the participants to take out the ATV stickers for this, just to participate in this event, that we would require if somebody were going to be operating them on a regular basis within the city limits.
Yeah, last year we actually put a device on everyone that signed in, so everybody that was in the event had something special on it, and both the city police, the county police all knew what was going on with it. So if they seen that, they didn't think that it was just somebody out joyriding. We do have the same kind of thing. It's changed up though, of course, so it's not going to be the same thing that we used last year on that part of it. We are going to be, I guess, leaving the KC Hall and possibly going through the four-way stop. And I know last year the city police helped on blocking that off for a little bit. But is there any concerns, or do you guys have any ideas or anything? No? No problem. Everything's good? Yep. All right, we'll continue with the event scheduling then. We appreciate it very much, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Takes us to our city administrator's report.
We attended the park board meeting. It's like a reinvigorated organization. They have a lot of energy, ideas. And the Spire has been working with Cochran on the drawing for the retaining wall. I've been copied on emails. They've kind of reached their. They've been asking for this, and the engineer said, "Yeah, we can do that." And so I think those plans are close to being finished for for Chadwell Lane, and an easement will be forthcoming from them for us to review and consider. The only extraordinary thing is because we're raising the road in front of the building, the current access door would conflict with the increased elevation of the road, so we're having to pay for another access door around the side of the building, and they're going to go ahead and do it and then bill us. And I said, I can't just give you a blank check. So they got a local contractor who's given them bids, and it's a $3,500 item. So that'll be an add to the cost of the project, maybe $3,600. But my original idea was we would put that work in the contract with the general contractor who's doing the road, and he would sub it out. But this works out just as well, and they feel better about it because they're in control of what they're getting. We met with Sandy Bell, Dave and I. We improve and inspect buildings for compliance with the building codes. Well, for some, particularly anybody that's providing food service, there's a health code. And she said that they don't always get contacted by the people. And I explained to her that we can't make people comply with getting that inspection done, but we can make sure they know they have to get it. So, we can enforce our ordinance, and we can inform people that this is an obligation, something they have to get, and we can cooperate to that extent, and we will. Had another meeting with a property owner regarding the cannabis issue. Dave and I have both completed our research. But in the process, we're aware that the Missouri Municipal League is putting together a model ordinance and should be available sometime in the next several weeks. So rather than having a study session to talk about it and then kind of create our own ordinance, I thought it would be prudent to wait for this vetted model to come out that the committee has been working on, and MML's legal staff has looked at, and we have that in front of us to consider. Is this on the agenda tonight? The community television? Mm-hmm. Community television. Our contract is technically up with them. We had agreed on the amount that we would pay them, and in our budget, we just never entered into the new contract for it. So they sent me a copy of a proposed contract. I made a couple of adjustments to it, sent it back to them. The board had reviewed it and then told the acting chairperson that they're okay with my changes, and so it's on the agenda tonight for your review. But again, we're already providing the first payment under the amount that you budgeted, even without the agreement. The AT&T tower is, they've surveyed it. After I wrote this, I received a 48-page lease agreement that I read, some of which I'm not sure I understand. I sent it to Mark. He's reviewing it. I think he'll probably come to a similar conclusion on mortgagee issues.
I don't think that applies.
Yeah, stuff.
I started my review today.
It was kind of it was their standard ordinance that had been changed based on our input, and they redlined things and put things in, and then it looks like they changed their mind or put them in wrong, and they redlined that and put something. It's really hard to read, but I finally got through it, and I saw Mark and I'll discuss it, and hopefully it'll be a clean form will be available probably by our next meeting, I would think, for you to look at and consider taking action on. On the water tower, some of you who've driven down Progress Parkway may have noticed that all the material for the containment system is being delivered. This is going to be this huge tent that's going to go around the water tower, and then we received an email from them. They're apparently sensitive to our complaints, so they're going to go ahead and put up the containment system now. So as soon as they get good weather, they can go in there and get it done. Finally, this is an issue for some discussion tonight. We have, and I'm going to have Dave come up with some figures, a requirement. There are, in each zone district, there are what I call entitlement activities. They are the activities that you can take within a zone district because they're identified and unrestricted in that zone district. So you can, the point being, you can build a house in a residential zone district. That's an entitlement. If you have property and it's residentially zoned, and you don't have to get further permission for that. Then there are activities within each of our zone districts that are allowed with special conditions. And then we have a chapter on special conditions, and you've acted on those in the past. In the past, sometimes special conditions were issued with a limited time. So, and sometimes they're, they're unique to that particular activity because of a perceived problem. It might be some conflict with the neighbors. Historically, St. Genevieve, once they adopted a condition, it just kind of got put in the file and nobody thought about it again. Several years ago, we started building a database so we know what special conditions are out there and what they were and what limits were on it. The question is whether or not we should review compliance for the conditions that were approved for any given particular piece of property. One thought is that that's part of what code enforcement is, ensuring compliance. The other is, if they're, whatever they're doing ain't causing a problem in the neighborhood, then what's the point? I mean, why do you want to create work? Because nobody's being bothered. So Dave's going to tell you kind of what the numbers are right now, and I think the question before us is, do we want to continue to monitor and inspect special conditions on a regular basis, or do we want to take the no harm, no foul approach on these special conditions?
I think Martin's already went over what I was going initially, which is
Oh, sorry.
405-200, which is the code. If you look it up on special use conditions.
And there's a stipulation in there under B, if granting a special use permit, the Board of Aldermen may impose, and it goes into all these conditions and safeguards, may impose. And then on down the line, there's a listing under D of special uses that are authorized, providing they comply. One of those is a commercial use, an industrial use in a commercial district. And if you go on down the list of things that need to be done in order to comply with that, it says that they have to annually submit a report to the zoning administrator telling what they're doing to stay in compliance with the permit. But it's just in that one instance in the code. Okay, if we were to permit a industrial use in a commercial district. However, that stipulation has been used on other special use permits. We currently have 24 plus. I think Martin alluded to the fact that maybe a year or so ago we started collecting these in a database, so I have those. But those that may be significantly older than the database are out there, but I don't have them in the database. So in the database I have 24 special use permits. Of the 24, there are 12 that have some special conditions. They all have special conditions, I shouldn't say that. 12 that have recurring checks, whether it be an annual report that gets submitted, or whether it be an annual inspection by the planning and zoning administrator, or whether it be an annual occupancy inspection, which I would encourage that because those occur with VRBOs, Airbnbs, where we have guests coming to stay on a regular basis. So that's an annual occupancy inspection required on those particular special use permits. But there are others that just have those other checks that I said, whether it's an annual report submitted by the owner or whether it's me going out once a year to follow up. There are 12 of those. So a little
kinds of restrictions we're talking about are perhaps signage, hours of operation,
deliveries.
Pardon?
When deliveries occur,
Go ahead.
Having a fire extinguisher, things of that nature. Having a valid business license, having proper certifications.
So we can continue on the route we are, or we can suspend kind of the monitoring process and react based on if somebody calls in and says, you know, they're staying open till midnight and the noise is bothering me. We can react to that and enforce the restriction based on that input.
Well, I thought we went through this a few years ago, and the board adopted a resolution that was basically, unless they're in violation, unless they're upsetting the neighbors, to forego the, now,
The
with the...
resolution we found is the one that, the change
Yeah.
that we found was the one that David just talked about, industrial
Okay.
and commercial.
Okay. Well, that's not the one I remember, but I don't know. I'm a keep it simple guy, and I just sort of feel like if they're not upsetting the neighbors, let them be. With the exception of, I can see it with the Verbos, because there's a lot of people that are, you know, that's a series of people that's in and out of one of those in the course of a year, and they're staying there. So, I mean, I can see that. To me, that sort of falls under rental property. But it's just my opinion.
David, can these special use permits be broken down according to the wards? Obviously, because they're addresses, can we take a look at them according to that? Because there's a couple in my district, in Ward 1, that I've been asked by residents to look at, and I think that you've been contacted by a couple of those. So if I wanted to do that, could I bring that forward onto a meeting to review these, or how does that work? If you have residents who have issues, especially now with our historic district, we're moving forward in a huge way.
This is a special use permit issue, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. How would we bring that forward if we're not reviewing them annually?
Through nuisance complaints?
Yeah, nuisance complaint.
So once you receive a nuisance complaint, what's the next steps?
I would go pull the special use permit and review it for any conditions, probably look up past meetings and see if, you know, what came of that permit during the meeting, see the vote on planning and zoning. I would look up the file on that special use permit.
Okay, because I like to keep it simple too, and I think the verbos are definitely something to bear in mind, but I think we also have to keep our doors open for the historic district. So I would prefer Ward 1 to be left open for review annually. I'd like to take a look at those. That's just where
You're
I am.
saying you prefer in your ward that we stick to the annual review
Yes,
process? That's
I
in
would.
place?
To me, the annual review is a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. If you take a reactive approach, you're already behind the ball.
Right,
And what did you say, there's only 12?
Correct.
yeah.
So it's not, I mean, not that
Of those
big.
12, probably, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Joe, there's probably 4 or 5 that are those occupancy inspections. So there's actually more like probably 7 or 8.
Dare I say it, I agree with Joe Prince.
Well, even after I slammed you earlier.
I'm surprised as you are.
I'm buying a lottery ticket.
So just keep them as they are?
And that's what I'm asking.
I would say
Because in order to avoid a future date where somebody says, I remember having this conversation, if you wanted to make the change that Randy's talking about, we should memorialize it in the ordinance.
I swear we did that, but if you can't find it, I guess it didn't happen.
before my time.
We look through the time period.
I know, you told me that.
Every ordinance that's been passed, and it's not there.
I'd say just leave it like they are.
Yeah,
I'd like to see the whole list of the ones that are out there.
I would as well.
Although, I gotta admit, I remember the conversation that was taken.
Okay.
I'm not, you're not.
It was
Christian.
previous mayor, yeah, but whatever.
I thought that was, we removed the board action on that and left it to Dave's position to, or between you and Dave and Martin to handle those type of things.
That wasn't my intent.
I thought that's-
No. I was trying to lighten the paperwork load because
We've only got 12 of them.
there.
Right.
But if it's not that many, then so be it.
And I can get you a list of them, but just be aware, like I said, it's from a certain date forward. If you know of one, I can look it up to the list. I know they're out there, but they were created a couple years ago.
That'd be great. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Anything else?
Oh, that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Very good. King Stein? Here from the fire chief?
Evening, everyone.
Hey, Chief.
Should have a copy of the report in front of you. I'll kind of mention that January was kind of the lull before the storm. Everything was kind of quiet around the area. And February has been hectic trying to get ready for the truck. And we also had our award supper and some other stuff going on. So you'll get all that in next month's report. But I reported last time on our inspection trip in January to look at the truck, and we did find some things, make some corrections and stuff. We are scheduled at this point to go out Sunday evening to Minnesota and do a final inspection. Final inspection is going to be basically taking our 2-inch thick book and reading line by line every little detail, light colors, everything, and making sure it's 100% up to what we want before we come back. We're planning on a 3-day trip right now, so we'll go up on Sunday, inspect on Monday. They'll make whatever changes they need to or alterations Monday into Tuesday. And we've made arrangements. If we have to, we'll stay an extra day to make sure it's right before we come back.
I'll watch the weather.
Yeah. I have been in contact with the insurance company and got a quote on the insurance. Right now I'm waiting on the VIN number from the manufacturer so I can get the insurance coverage lined out and ready for that trip too. Everything else seems like it's pretty well in order. They sent some pictures. I tried to print some out, but my computer wasn't working real well this evening. But it looks really good from what we're seeing so far. And the guys are really enthused about going up and checking it out and bringing it home. So it should be hopefully here Monday or Tuesday evening by, I'm saying, probably 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. It's about a 14-hour drive home with it. So we'll get a good chance to see how it handles and everything on the road coming home too. And the only other thing I'd really bring to your attention is grants. I got the conservation grant, and I've got some of the equipment bought. I've got a couple other things that are out on bids, and I'm waiting for the bids to come in so I can finish the purchase there. I'm really optimistic about our 2 Wholesome grants that we wrote, the Community Foundation, I guess they call it. Had some good feedback from some of the board members. Sounds like we might be getting those, but there's no formal notice yet. And the AFG grant, the big federal one, we won't know anything till probably at least April before they start making any announcements there. Any questions?
On the truck being so late, you said they were going to give some I guess, some things in...
Bells and whistles.
Yeah, the bells and whistles.
They made a couple of fabrication changes. We changed the cord reel from one location to another and changed a couple other minor things. And then they gave us the bumper warranty for 2 years, which was over and above what they had on it before. So they did some things to make it right. They also know that their reputation is on the line here too, because we belong to, and that's one of the things we're doing in February, we belong to an organization called the Ozark Regional Firefighters Association. That's like 30 fire departments from this region. And we were scheduled to show this truck back in October and had to reschedule our meeting. So every fire department in that region knows that this truck is late. So they're really doing what they can to make it right, to make sure that everybody knows that their reputation's there and it's going to hold.
Are you satisfied with what they're doing, or?
So far I am, yeah. Okay. There was a couple of minor things that we asked to do, but whenever we start checking into it, the things that they wanted to do, we could actually get them cheaper locally, like some high-intensity headlights. Instead of having them do it for $2,000, we can go to a local parts store and get them for $50 or $100 a piece and save some money there. There will be one thing that I'll be asking for approval on for the next board meeting, and that is what they call a intercom radio interface system. Basically what it is an intercom system for within the truck. It also does the radio communication, so you don't have to physically pick up a mic and talk, and it also has hearing protection involved in it. The bids are due in on that on the 22nd, so on the 28th meeting it'll be available for first round reading, and that'll go in the new truck. And like I said, it does the radio, it does the intercom so people can talk inside the truck, and it also is hearing protection for the loud sirens and things. But you'll have that hopefully by next board meeting to look at.
You got an idea what that might...
The Firecom system, talking to one of the companies that handles them, their cost is probably going to be around $6,000, which would be available in Rural Fire Fund. in my maintenance line item from rural fire fund, I put 12,000 in to cover that cost and some other stuff.
Yeah, sounds good.
And the other trucks coming in?
We've got partial systems in a couple of them, and I do want to eventually bring those up to speed. The two pumpers, 7141 and 7143, have a set for the driver, and it also can be unplugged and taken out to the pump panel. The driver can have that headset on while he's running the pump. I'd like to get a second headset put into each one of those trucks, and eventually have all of our trucks having it to give us the better hearing protection. But one step at a time, we'll get this one going and make sure it's going to work for us before we invest more money into additional trucks.
Yeah, there you go.
Anybody else?
Sounds good.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Roth?
Good evening, how we doing?
All right.
Best thing I say, there's no mosquito problems right Hope not. We deal with snow. Hopefully no ice. So, we're looking at another round coming up this weekend. We're ready.
Thanks for a good job.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on my report or anything? We're getting everything ready for springtime to be ready to mow when it gets here.
Duties here and personal life, I go to other towns and cities. Nobody does a better job that I see than this St. Genevieve crew. I'm sometimes amazed.
Just taught by the best.
I'm telling you.
No, we use sand.
What's that pea gravel doing on 9th Street? That's pretty thick.
No, we use sand. Sand and, there could have been a little in with it, but.
More towards springs as things start to settle down, warm up and stuff. Out in front of the train building there, there's a bunch of pea gravel. It's brought this up. A couple residents took a picture. You know the new pathway we have?
Yeah.
It's covered with debris.
Gravel coming off their lots.
Right, gravel's coming off their lot, and it's old.
Well, we had a big issue was when they snowplowed the railroad's parking lot.
Right, that's
They
why I was
put
saying.
it on the sidewalk.
Right, that's why I was saying that till later on.
Yeah.
Just be advised that's that.
But we've already cleaned it a couple times, so. Anything else?
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks,
So it's the railroad, not the special road district.
That's exactly right. That's where.
David?
Yes, sir. Not a whole lot this month, gentlemen. A couple of meetings coming up. You got the dates there. Heritage Commission, Planning and Zoning. Down at the bottom, under the property maintenance focus, there's a couple of incorrect numbers there. If you're interested, that 43 of 62, that should be a 44, and that leaves 18 remaining. Just my mistake. Any questions? Thank you.
Great work.
Thank you very much. Takes us to committee reports. Joe, you have anything from planning and zoning? Nothing. Okay. All right. That's right. All right. Public comments. A lot of people in the gallery, I guess, so,
If they're here for the public hearing, they should just
Yeah.
wait until that time.
if you're here for the public hearing, you can make your comments then. You know, but any other public comments? Come to the podium, please.
Introduce myself.
Yes, state your name.
Okay.
I thought that was the way it went. My name's Jack Rozier. What I'm here to speak of is the decision that was made based on the TIF district at the last board meeting. Now, I realize this has already been decided, so it's kind of like the closing the gate after the horses run away. But in my time, I thought there was always 3 readings. And I just found out from Pam today there's 2 readings. Okay, so it was my mess up not come to talk to you before this. I may have to get a better handle on these procedures. But anyway, I was asked to be on this TIF board and accepted. My point is, I feel there are 4 members on this board who had what I feel was a conflict of interest. 1 member during the vote abstained because he had property in the district that would affect him. 2 other voting members' livelihood depends on taxes. 1 member, as I said, 1 member did not vote. 2 members' livelihood depends on tax receipts of both personal and real estate taxes. The 4th voting member is on the board of directors of one of these tax entities. And if you're curious who they are, look up your personal or property. It's number 1 and number 3 of the amount that we pay. While I hope, or we hope, their votes were not influenced by this, they should have not been put in this position to do it. And it's my fault that you guys should have known that I feel there is a conflict, because this recommendation was brought to you with a vote that I felt was not proper. Thank you.
Any other public comments? All righty. And at 6:32, we'll open the public hearing.
Before Dave's going to come up, this is a public hearing that stems from a decision of the Board of Aldermen to uphold the recommendation of the Heritage Commission to not issue permission for the construction of the digital portion of the sign that is proposed by the applicant. The ordinance provides an opportunity for the applicant to request a public hearing, which he did. Public hearing is just that. It's an opportunity for you to receive information from the staff, from the applicant, and from interested parties regarding your prior decision. At the end of the hearing ends. There's no vote taken. It's an informational hearing. If you hear something tonight that you think justifies a reconsideration of your prior decision, then the appropriate action would be for you to bring that up at our next meeting or a subsequent meeting. If you do nothing, at the end of 35 days, the issue is over. Now,
So you're talking about it would have to be an agenda item at any particular meeting in the future,
right.
within the 35 days.
Yes. And that would require an alderman
Right.
bringing it up. I recommend that you contact Pam or me and say you want it on an agenda. And we would make it an agenda item, at which point you would be able to discuss and vote on it. But that is not your role tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Martin. David?
Just to give you a quick breakdown, I don't think I've submitted this with the documents you have, with the staff report and the outcome planning and zoning and the postings from the paper, but Mr. Mills submitted his application back on November 28th. Notice was published December 19th, and the notice of meeting was mailed December 3rd to the applicants and the adjoining property owners. Sought input from the police and fire chief. And the applications were returned from them, and then the meeting notice sent to the media on the 31st of December. And then the planning and zoning meeting occurred on January 3rd, and there was a denial. The Board of Aldermen meeting occurred on January 10th, where they accepted the denial, and at that point, Mr. Mills made an oral request for appeal. On January 15th, public hearing notices were mailed to the surrounding property owners, and the public hearing was posted in the Herald on January 29th. And that leads us to here tonight.
Mr. Mills, your turn to speak.
Hello, how are y'all doing? I'm here again to ask for permission to put my sign up. It's just the same thing over and over again. I'm asking if I can have permission to put it up. I know there's a lot of conflict in it. A lot of people saying that it's in a residential district and all that stuff. We already know it's in a business district. We already know it's in the historic district. I'm trying to get all my permits, and well, I have all my permits to get everything done for my business and my building. This is the only thing that's holding me back right now is this little bitty sign that I'm trying to put up. I do understand this historic district. I'm not on the beaten path of Jordan Fett or any other craft shows that y'all have or the art walk. It's not something that is on Main Street, Jefferson Street, Merchant Street. It's off the beaten path. You know, it will lighten the place up a little bit. You know, the sign does ambient light. When it gets darker, the light goes down. It don't flash, it scrolls. We can stop all that. There's an ordinance for being off at 10 p.m. And not starting up till 6 a.m. in the morning. We do open up at 6 a.m. The light will come on at 6 a.m. We normally close at 7 and 8 p.m. 7 o'clock Sunday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Friday and Saturday. In the summertime, it don't get dark till 9:15, 9:30, 9 o'clock. So I'm closed an hour before it even gets dark in the summertime. In the wintertime, it gets dark 5:30, a little bit, 15 minutes earlier than sometimes. But again, at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 6 in the morning, 7 o'clock in the evening, it's turned off. The only reason it's on where it's at now is because the fact is it can stay on. There's no ordinance there for what time it needs to be off or what time it needs to be on. So I'm asking for my light to be, or my sign to be, permission to put it up.
The main sign is already.
Yes, the top portion of it.
Right.
And it's
The small part that.
the small part that says the date, the time, what our specials are. Check us out on Facebook, you know, whatever that we want to put on there at that time. Even if it's Happy Father's Day, Happy Mother's Day, Happy Valentine's Day, or. But it's not it don't flash, you know, it's just a scrolling sign.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the gallery that wants to speak about the sign?
Go first. All right. Susan, you're an anchor. So you're, okay.
I want to give the alderman the benefit of what I said to planning and zoning. But first, I think it's important to define what flashing is. Flashing is it turns on, then it turns off. Then it turns on, then it turns off. So it doesn't necessarily talk about brightness. LED lights that scroll, that change their message, inevitably flash in order to change.
So a light comes on and it comes off. If you go out and look at the sign, you can see exactly what that means, but to say that it doesn't flash, I don't think is correct. I also don't think that either of these signs should have been given a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Commission, because they are not appropriate for a historic area. I understand that the building isn't historic, but what I need to impress upon this commission is that our downtown highlights buildings. Mr. Mills is doing a wonderful job in actually improving that building, and I think that's great. It would be, in my opinion, a shame to put a sign out that would detract from the work that he's doing, much less detract from the other historic buildings that are in the area. With that said, let me give you the benefit of what I told to the Historic Commission, or I'm sorry, to Planning and Zoning. First, I want to congratulate the owners on their successful business. I'm excited to have another restaurant in the downtown area and wish them continued success. While I appreciate the want and desire to utilize their existing sign from the Highway 61 location, that type of sign is inappropriate for a location within our historic district. So much so, we have an existing ordinance against such types of signs. Mind you, in his asking for permission to put up the sign, he's asking for a variance of our existing ordinance, something that was put there for good reason. The existing sign is intended to attract people driving at high rates of speed to a building set back from the road. Without a sign like that, nobody would know that there was a restaurant there. The new location is completely different. The speed limit is 20 miles per hour. The building is right next to the road, and most importantly, there is good reason for the ordinance. Main Street programs across the nation recommend against LED signs and internally lit signs. They are too bright, especially at night, have an appearance that detracts from the historic context of the downtown district, and create visual clutter that removes the focus from historic buildings. In real estate, everyone has heard the three most important things: location, location, location. Because of that, we have to recognize that a highway frontage restaurant is a vastly different business than one nestled in a historic district. We have to recognize that the signage for one business isn't appropriate for another. A new business requires new signage. I understand the feeling of loss when a specific investment to a business needs to be abandoned or sold, but it isn't appropriate for this commission to approve the installation of an inappropriate sign simply because the owner has already had it installed at another location. I submit to them and to you that an appropriate signage for the building and business would likely even cost less than the removal and subsequent installation of this sign in the new location. It is your responsibility to protect the integrity of our historic district and keep the focus on the buildings. Yes, I realize that this particular building is not a historic one, but its neighbors are. The National Park designation came to us because of our architecture. Please do not allow the installation of this sign. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Are there any questions for me?
Hi, Susan O'Donnell. I think most people know that we bought the Main Street Inn and have spent a considerable amount of money rehabbing it. It's a beautiful building. The district has, I think, improved greatly over the last few years. And now we have something that I would say every historic town would envy, and that's national park status. If you go to historic towns, the one thing that you notice is, as you said, architecture, beauty, lack of clutter. There is absolutely no way that a restaurant 61 would have a chance of being noticed without Mr. Mill's sign. I really get that. It's an absolutely quintessential 61 sign. It is an absolutely horrendous sign to put in a historic district of a famous town. We have guests who come from Canada, Mexico, Japan to see the architecture of our town. It would be such a shame to start putting signs like this in our historic neighborhood when all we are doing is trying to improve it. And it is a big deal to keep a building such as the Main Street Inn, 3 floors of wood and stone and roofing and gutters and God knows what. It's a big deal to keep it alive and thriving. And what I have realized as a new innkeeper type of person is that people come to bed and breakfasts for 2 things. One is the historic experience of our town, which isn't Perryville and isn't Farmington. They are absolutely fascinated by it, and the new museum, they absolutely love it. But the other thing, even maybe more so, is people come to the inn, and I'm sure the other inns too, to rest. We have met so many people who have been through something, who just want to chill. They often barely go out to dinner. They come back, they sit in their room. We have a balcony which would look straight at the sign. And the room off that balcony would be in the window, and we have another room that looks at it. I would feel terrible if I went to a bed and breakfast in a historic town, in a historic building, and had a strobe sign running past my expensive room for 5 hours on a winter night. I want to say to Mr. Mills that I have nothing against you. I ask you earnestly not to put this sign up. I plan to eat all the time in your restaurant, and I had to cook the breakfast on Christmas morning because our innkeeper was off, and I burned the bacon to that color. And if you'd been there, I would have been running over buying breakfast and bringing it back to serve to the guests. So you are most welcome. I hear your food is wonderful. I hope you thrive, but please don't put up with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No offense, but this is a hearing for the board, so if you could direct your comments to the board, that would be appreciated.
Olive Krause, 145 Washington. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. So romantic, isn't it? First, I wish to express support for the Mills family and their efforts on the building at 181 Washington. They put a ton of money and work into the property, and anyone taking on a building in the downtown historic district deserves our support, not condemnation. This is not about a building, it is not about a business, and certainly not personal. This is about the impact of installing a modern contemporary sign in our downtown historic district. No man is an island, and what we do on our individual properties affects and impacts the lives of others. We need to be mindful of this, especially in our historic district. An illuminated cabinet sign and flashing LED sign is inappropriate at this location. Its impact extends beyond the property lines and intimately affects the lives and businesses around it. I was told I could not install a 90-year-old front door on the schoolhouse, nor erect a seasonal inflatable swimming pool in my private fenced-in backyard because I owned a landmark building. Why then is it okay to have an LED sign flashing in the 16 windows of that same landmark building? Something is deeply out of balance here. What we do affects others. We've all had a romantic candlelit dinner, but have you ever heard of a romantic LED-lit dinner? No. Why is that? Because lighting has a huge visceral impact on our mind, mood, and emotions. It literally sets the tone for our experience of a place. People come here to our historic town to feel something. It may be the feel of the past, when times felt quieter and simpler. It is in all of our best interest not to jar them out of this feeling. In the immortal words of Nancy Reagan, just say no. Thank you.
Thank you, Olive. Anybody else? Mr. Mills, you have the last say. Anything else? Okay, thank you all very much. And we'll close the public hearing at 6:49. Takes us to the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. I'll wait for the gallery to clear. What, you had a question?
I thought he was confused. No. I was waiting to
All right. Takes us to old business. Bill number 4262, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission municipal agreement for public improvements along Route Missouri 32.
Motion to approve.
I have a roll call, please.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Mooney.
Yes.
Alderman Donovan. Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Jones.
Yes.
Alderman Stupi. Alderman Prince.
Yes.
Alderman Rozika.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no's, 1 absent. Bill number 4262 now becomes ordinance 4193.
Thank you. Takes us to bill number 4263, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into agreement between the city of St. Genevieve and St. Genevieve County regarding 911 dispatching services for the calendar year 2019.
Move to approve.
Have a roll call, please.
Alderman Rozika.
Yes.
Alderman Prince.
Yes.
Alderman Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Jones.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers.
Yes.
Alderman Mooney.
Yes.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no's, 1 absent. Bill number 4263 now becomes ordinance 4194.
Thank you. Takes us to new business. Bill number 4264, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement between the city of St. Genevieve and the St. Genevieve Community Access Television Board.
Motion to approve.
I have,
Oh. Right.
I have a question on, how does this compare to what we did in the budget last year? You know, that they came back from 191. Wasn't that based on the income from
It's-
charter that we won't know until?
Well, the amount we're committing to here represents a percentage of the amount that we receive from charter. If that number falls, their income will fall relative to the receipts.
Okay.
So if it gets to a point where we don't get enough income from them to cover that payment, that 75% calculation will kick in.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Takes us to bill number 4265, an ordinance allowing the 2019 Show Me Green sales tax holiday to apply to the local sales taxes of the city of St. Genevieve, Missouri between April 19th and April 25th, 2019.
Approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I request a second reading so I can get that sent to the state?
Motion for a second reading?
Second. Second.
All in favor of the second? Aye. All righty. So we'll have the second reading on bill number 4265, an ordinance allowing the 2019 Show Me Green sales tax holiday to apply to the local sales tax of the city of St. Genevieve, Missouri between April 19th and April 25th of 2019.
Motion to approve? Second.
Have a roll call, please.
Alderman Jones.
Yes.
Alderman Stupi.
Yes.
Alderman Prince.
Yes.
Alderman Rozika.
Yes.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Mooney.
Yes.
Alderman Jokers. 7 yes, 0 no's, 1 absent. Bill number 4266 now becomes ordinance 4195.
Okay, so it takes us to bill number 4266. We have an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into agreement between the city of St. Genevieve and St. Genevieve County to assist in the funding and cooperation of the St. Genevieve County Recycling Center.
Make a motion to approve, sir.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Takes us to bill number 4267, an ordinance approving a bid disposal from Schulte Supply Incorporated, Edwardsville, Illinois, for the purchase of materials for the connection from the water system to the Progress Parkway Water Tower in the amount not to exceed $11,063.20, and amending the water fund budget number 30.
Approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Takes us to Bill number 4268, an ordinance amending the City of St. Genevieve Code of Ordinance, Chapter 340, miscellaneous driving rules, Section 340.250, operation of UTV vehicles as set forth below.
And, yeah, I hate to, but I'll give you some background here. Got a call from the assessor's office asking if we check to make sure that the personal property taxes are paid before we issue the UTV ordinance or perk, whatever, sticker. Told her that we certainly could, but we couldn't require it unless we changed our ordinance. She argued, I don't disagree with her argument, that it's in the city's interest to ensure that someone who is getting a permission from the city to operate it pay their personal property tax because we share in those receipts. And that is why that's on the agenda before you tonight.
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any other business? Anything else? Yes?
When are we gonna talk about some budget issues?
We will talk to, I'm all for doing that, but what I gotta look at is in just over a month, we're gonna have 3 new people on this board, possibly 4. So we can talk about it, but I would sure like the people that are gonna make that decision with a new board, I would like them to have a say-so in this. Because if we don't, then the decisions that's made, and then we'll have 3 to 4 people that are off the board, and somebody else has to live with their decision. I don't think that's right.
I'm not talking about making, well, but there's some issues I think we need to start discussing. Reviewing. Right, just start reviewing.
And can we have those people, be open to those people, have them sit in here and, so they're up to speed on what we've said?
Some of those are unopposed.
Yeah, some of them are unopposed, so you know those people are coming in regardless.
Okay.
You can still have input.
Right.
They just can't
Can't vote on it.
Well,
We're not gonna be voting.
our meetings are public, so anybody can come. The question is, to what extent do you want to allow them to participate?
Well, it wouldn't be
I think
any.
it's open to anybody.
We're talking about participation in decision-making.
Well, there wouldn't be any. I don't see us doing any decision making. I don't even know.
Okay.
No.
I think it's just a review.
It's just
Where we're at.
All right, then I think we can, 1st of March, be all right, get through February?
Let's pick a date so we can schedule it.
Opposite, so you're gonna do opposite days of the meeting, or like?
Well, that's the first question is, you want to do it at 5 o'clock before the 6 o'clock meeting?
I would prefer that, if that's okay.
Right, but I mean, if you need an alternate day, you know, in times past, we've done like the alternate week in between even.
Sure. I mean, we have to accommodate
I have a problem with that.
most people's schedules is all, and I'll be here whenever you do it.
Oh, okay.
I think the best thing to do is to do it prior to or after a meeting.
Well, we can do both. We can schedule the work session. If you want to since without adjourning it, we can pick it up after we have the regular business. We can do that. Since there's no time constraint, I don't know why we would need to do that. We could just schedule another one for the next meeting.
So we're our first meeting in March. Prior to that meeting at 5 o'clock, we'll convene.
Good. Okay. 14th. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So is there specific parts of the budget you want to look at, or is there?
Well,
No. Okay.
Who was that, 5? 5 on the 14th. And Pam's really good about setting this up.
Is there anything else? If there's no other business, I'll adjourn the meeting.
There you go. She barely looked up from her glasses at me.
I'm sorry.